It's probably one of the most common phrases we say to our kids. Good job. We say it all the time, right? To build them up, to encourage them, to show them we're proud. But what if that simple, everyday expression isn't actually doing what we think it is? Well, today we're going to dive into the surprising science behind praise. So here's the big question, the one at the heart of a huge debate for parents and teachers everywhere. On the surface, good job seems so harmless, so positive. But the research, it paints a much, much more complicated picture. And this debate is fierce. On one hand, you have people who see praise as this essential tool for positive development. But on the other, you have critics who warn it can be manipulative, that it creates kids who are totally dependent on getting that pat on the back, what some people call praise junkies, and they lose their own drive to do things. It's a real puzzle. But what if both sides are kind of missing the point? A really fascinating study from 2019 looked at preschool teachers in China and came to this powerful conclusion. The real issue isn't if you should praise your kids. The thing that really matters is how you do it. The study kicks off with this perfect little story that illustrates the whole point. They compare two real-life teachers in their classrooms. Let's call them Mrs. Liang and Mrs. May. Their styles couldn't be more different, and honestly, the results speak for themselves. So let's start with Mrs. Liang. She sees a little girl named Hong do well at a memory game. But she doesn't just say, good job. Nope. She points out her specific improvement in that game. And the result? Hong just beams with this huge, proud smile. Now, look over at Mrs. May's classroom. A boy counts to 10, and her praise is just, you are the best. And the kid's reaction? He just sits down quietly. The whole moment just kind of falls flat. See, this is a perfect example of praise that focuses on the process, on growth. By saying, she has improved a lot, Mrs. Liang is telling Hong that her effort, her practice, it actually paid off. That's real feedback Hong can use. It feels genuine, and you can tell it really landed. Now, compare that to Mrs. May. Her praise, you are the best. It's just so general. It focuses on the person, not what they did. It's kind of an empty compliment, What is the child supposed to do with that? It doesn't tell him what he did well or how he could do it again. The study showed it just created this moment of total indifference, not motivation. So this got the researchers thinking. They dug way deeper. They analyzed hours and hours of classroom video to figure out what exactly the high-quality teachers like Mrs. Liang were doing that was so different from the low-quality teachers like Mrs. May. And the patterns they found? They're incredibly clear. Okay, so first things first, the researchers broke praise down into two key types. You've got general praise, that's your basic good job or very good, and then there's specific praise. This is the good stuff, sometimes called process praise, because it describes the actual behavior you're happy about. And the breakdown here is just fascinating. The study found that the high-quality teachers used that specific, meaningful praise nearly 3/4 of the time. They were constantly connecting their encouragement to a child's actual effort or actions. And the low-quality teachers, it's a near-perfect mirror image. It's like they flipped the chart completely upside down. They were leaning on that general, vague praise almost 80% of the time. So yeah, they were saying good job a lot. But because it wasn't tied to anything concrete, it just lost all its power. It wasn't just what they said, but when they said it. The study found a huge difference there too. High-quality teachers gave praise mostly during learning activities. Using it to guide and deepen understanding. The low-quality teachers, on the other hand, used praise way more often during transitions, like lining up or cleaning up, basically using it as a tool for crowd control. And here's a finding that might actually surprise you. It turns out the high-quality teachers didn't praise more. In fact, on average, they praised a little bit less. The low-quality teachers were the ones handing out more praise, but it was just less effective. This really hammers home that main point. It is all about quality over quantity. But as the researchers were sifting through all this data, they stumbled on something that was truly shocking. It wasn't just about the difference between the teachers and their study, but the difference between their study and, well, pretty much everyone else. Okay, get ready for this. The difference they found is just staggering. The Chinese preschool teachers in this study praised students on average just 6.3 times an hour. Now compare that to the US, where it's almost 46 times an hour. That is more than 7 times as often. So why this massive gap? The study suggests it's deeply rooted in culture. Traditional Chinese education often really emphasizes things like modesty and self-improvement. The idea of just constantly handing out praise can actually be seen as getting in the way of building a child's moral character. It's a fundamentally different way of looking at encouragement. So let's bring this all back together. Why does the type of praise we use matter so much? Well, because effective, specific praise doesn't just make a kid feel good in the moment, it actively improves the entire learning environment for everyone. The researchers found that high-quality praise has this amazing ripple effect. First, it boosts emotional support, creating a really positive, trusting climate. Second, it improves classroom organization because specific praise makes it super clear what behavior is expected. And third, and this is the big one, it enhances instruction by turning a right answer into a much deeper learning moment. Here's one last perfect example from the study that shows this in action. On the left, a high-quality teacher named Mrs. Fa asks a boy why he solved a math problem a certain way. After he explains, she praises him for using the method she taught. See how that turns his correct answer into a teaching moment for the whole class? But on the right, a low-quality teacher, Mrs. Wong, gets a correct answer and just says, "Very good," and immediately moves on. The conversation just stops. That opportunity for deeper thinking is completely lost. So, what's the bottom line? What can we all take away from this? The key points are pretty clear. Focus on the quality of your praise, not how often you're saying it. Praise the effort and the process, not just the perfect score or the clean room. Be specific. Tell them exactly what they did that was great. Use praise to open up conversations about learning. And finally, just remember that our ideas about praise are shaped by our own culture. This research really leaves us with a powerful question to ask ourselves. The next time you're about to say, "Good job," just pause for a second and think. Are you praising who they are, what they achieved, or how they got there? Because as the study shows, that tiny little distinction can make all the difference in the world.